Hey, no more chicken strips.
Yeah. I guess we both have a better understanding of throttle control.
And we're more confident in the level of grip.
Right. Throttle control is the secret to getting the most out of your bike. But there's one place you really need to go to see if you have it nailed. The track. I'll see you guys at the track.
I stayed with you all the way to that fast turn. Man, you just pulled away like a train.
That's because you were charging the turn.
Charging turns is a common rider error. Being fearless with the speed and brakes coming in often adversely affects entry and mid-turn throttle.
That was a mistake.
All right, so when my arm is rising, I'm rolling on, and when it's falling, I'm rolling off. So my left hand is telling you guys what my right hand is doing, okay?
I got it on that first turn. But that double apex.
Well, man, you're still charging the turns.
Yeah, you're right. That's SR number one in another form. I'm greedy with the gas going in there, then coasting and losing too much speed.
Charging your turns just masks your sense of speed. Let's take a look.
Charging any turn tends to narrow our field of view. When we lose our reference points, it affects our sense of speed. This is one of our SRs. Our new rider is still charging corners and chopping the gas. That will cost him turn entry speed and a clean early roll-on. This looks pretty rough. Even in slow speed situations, the throttle is our friend. Nothing else will stabilise the bike. Once you've mastered your throttle control SRs, you have taken a giant step towards control over the bike and confidence in yourself at any speed.
Understanding your bike's needs and wants is important. You don't have to be world champion to see throttle control optimizes your bike's suspension, smooths out rough surfaces, helps you hold your line, and optimizes traction in practically every situation.
Man, this track riding is really hard work.
Yeah, I got a really bad forearm pump. I could hardly grip the front brake. It's like riding motocross all over again.
We gotta get ourselves down to the gym and work out a little more often.
Yeah.
My first reaction is to tell them both to relax. Let's take a close look at how excess rider input creates instability and tires out the rider.
Here again, holding on too tight causes the rider to receive too much input. The tighter you hold on, the bigger the bumps seem. Small shakes from the front end are amplified as well. Why are the bars moving? What are they searching for? They're trying to find a position that will stabilise the bike by maintaining the correct tracking of front and rear wheels. The bike does this without any help from the rider. If the rider could hold on tight enough to stop the bars moving, he would only amplify that wobble. The force he puts into the bars creates resistance and a ploughing effect at the front tyre's contact patch. Now the back of the bike wants to rotate around that resistance and the wobble becomes even worse. Setting a wheelie down crooked is an extreme example of this. Let's look again. When the front wheel is not in alignment with the bike's direction of travel, there is a huge resistance created at the front contact patch. The wheel immediately tries to realign itself with the bike's direction of travel. Take a look at the massive deformation in the front tyre as it sets down. When the rubber springs back into alignment, the front end shakes. Look at the difference in front end shake the rider is creating when he is too tight on the bars. Being stable on the bike but loose on the bars reduces bike twitch. Holding on too tight transfers engine and road vibration to your hands and arms, tiring them out and making them numb. This in turn causes you to hold on even tighter. This same elevated level of feedback can, again, easily distort your sense of speed. When the rider responds by tightening up on the bars, it gets worse. This is SR number 2 once again, tightening on the bars. Over poor surface conditions, a rider who tenses his back gets out of harmony with his bike and will tend to bounce in the saddle. This causes extra suspension action. Your legs are a terrific help to your bike's suspension in these situations. Riding light in the saddle using your legs with a loose and slightly arched back helps enormously. Most riders become anxious about being blown around by other vehicles or the wind and tighten on the bars. As the upper body is buffeted by the wind, the bike is being steered by the wind. Ride loose like this and the wind's effect on the bike is reduced. Other key rider jobs are similarly affected by holding on too tight. Being stiff on the bike while riding through bumpy turns tends to turn the throttle on and off. Suspension and traction are affected because good throttle control is not maintained. Riding loose solves this. Riding rigidly can shake your helmet and blur your vision. The more you try to brace yourself and hold your head still, the more it shakes. This can even make your neck sore. Limber and loose is smooth.
Do you ever find yourself making steering corrections while in the corner? This is another part of survival reaction number 2, gripping the bars too tightly. As the bike runs wide, or feels like it's running wide, survival reaction number 2 kicks in and steering corrections occur.
This all makes the bike more unstable and it runs wide in the corner. How much actual bar pressure is needed to hold your line? As you can see, with good throttle control, none.
Check this out. I'm not helping the bike at all by holding on. The tighter I get on the bars, the worse it gets. I don't need to go to the gym to hold on tighter. I need to lighten my grip on the bars. I had it all backwards.
Like most avid cornering enthusiasts, you've tried to hang off. There are several key elements we'll cover on this. First, when do you hang off? One of the more common beginner errors is moving over into a hang-off position right at the turning point. Notice the bike wiggling? The rule of thumb is to pre-position your hips just before you roll off the gas. This method will reduce problems from unwanted handlebar and body inputs. The second novice knee-jogger error is hanging off too far. Enough is helpful, too much is awkward and does more harm than good. Notice how stiff the rider is when off too far. One cheek off the seat is enough. These two simple rules will get you started. Hang off early and not too far. The opposite of hanging off is crossed up. This reduces control, exaggerates lean angle and makes the rider twisted and tight on the bike. With a hung-off body position, control improves. Lean angle is decreased and the rider is in alignment with his bike and relaxed. Compare the two. With the speed and line almost identical, look at the difference in exit lean angle. Less lean equals more throttle and better drive. Now let's compare straight up riding with hanging off and see if there is a difference. Here he is riding straight up. Once again, at nearly identical speed and line, there is a measurable difference in lean. Body position on the bike can positively or negatively affect your riding. He could have gotten over sooner for this corner. Getting over before turning, he's smooth as silk entering the turn. Both errors here, moving over while turning, and he's off too far. The problem is compounded when you lose connection with the bike. He's remedied that. Now back up a bit. There he goes. His arms can now be loose and relaxed. When the whole body position and turn entry package is done right, it affords a rider the maximum of control with the absolute minimum of effort. Here's another view of a clean, loose run through a turn. The human machine works this way. When the lower body is unstable, we must rely on our arms and torso for support. Once the lower body is stable, we are at liberty to relax the torso and get great body position. Notice how much lower he can go without tension. Let's look at the difference between his moves on the bike when disconnected and compare that to locked onto the bike firmly. Much more relaxed and in control. The crossed up riding style looks even worse from on board. Everything about the rider is twisted and unnatural. Head, shoulders, even eye position is strained. One last look at the difference between riding crossed up and stiff on the bike and riding in alignment, well connected and loose.
It's easy to see how we can create instability with the bike. What design features do sport and sport touring bikes have to help prevent that? Why do sport bikes even look the way they do? High-backed seats anchor the rider more firmly, reducing the need to hang on by grabbing the bars too tightly. Large tanks help provide a better perch on the bike. Some riders use it for elbow or forearm rest during cornering. They can also provide a resting place for the upper torso. Knee cutouts on the tank's side provide a more stable way to hold on, allowing the rider to use the bars less. Rear set foot pegs are really important. They give the rider a more stable perch for moving around on and steering the bike. If this bike had cruiser pegs like this, it would be unrideable.
In fast turns, trying to anchor yourself firmly on the bike requires something to hold on to. Unfortunately, the inside bar is the handiest thing, resulting in the rider pulling on it. This makes the bike go to the outside of the turn because you are counter-steering. Gripping the bike with one or both legs eliminates this problem. Resting an elbow on the tank can help. The hanging off style can have another unfavourable side effect. By pulling yourself from one side of the bike to the other using the bars, you will make the bike wiggle. Anchoring yourself firmly on the bike and using your legs to move reduces unwanted handlebar input and avoids the problem. Is a motorcycle truly out of control when it's sliding? How do you save it when the front or rear tyre gives up traction? Why don't the fast guys always crash when their bikes slide? While wiggles and shakes are distracting, there is a far more dramatic and deadly result from survival reaction number 2. That's being too tight on the bike. This is the stable position for a front wheel during a slide. What would happen if the rider resisted this movement? When you counter the front end's natural attempt to stabilise the bike, you create resistance at the front contact patch, making the slide worse, and turning into high sides like this.
My rear tire must have gone off. It's sliding in turn 3.
Problems?
I didn't know you were out here. Yeah, sliding in turn 3.
How's your throttle control through turn 3?
Really good. I've already worked that out.
You have any arm pump?
Yeah, now that you mention it, I think I do.
Well, being tight on the bike can start little slides before you get anywhere near the limits of traction.
Really? It's not the tire? Well, can you ride it just to see?
Sure. Always wanted to ride one of these.
So how was it?
Oh, the bike's great. Thanks for the ride. Oh yeah, your tire's fine.
I guess I'm making it slide then, huh? SR number 2 strikes again. I'm just too tight on the bars.
Try it again. I'll follow you.
Really? Thanks.
While he may not be really fast yet, our new rider is making real progress.
The 3 most common reasons for front end slides are 1, overbraking going into turns. 2, from overloading the front tire. This is called pushing the front end. The standard solution to a pushing front end is getting back on the gas. And 3, from slippery surfaces. Fighting the front will make you crash. Letting the bike do its own thing, relaxed on the bars, is the right choice. You are dangerous to yourself to the degree you let this survival reaction number 2 grip you in its claws. Take control by doing nothing. Let the bike stabilize itself.
I'm getting a lot of head shake over turn 6. I think it's my shock or forks. Guess it could be a bad tire.
Does it happen every lap?
Yeah.
No. Maybe once every 2 or 3 laps at first. And then it did it every lap. I had to pull in.
See, here it says bikes don't do anything every few laps. Only riders do. So I bet if you loosen up on the bars, it'll stop.
Yeah, I think you're right.
You know?
We can contribute to or detract from the bike's inherent stability by understanding its demands and eliminating any unwanted or unneeded inputs. Take braking. With the weight forward, stiff arms and up on the tank, the bike stoppies. With less bar pressure and the rider stabilised by the tank, the bike is more stable. Back in the seat with loose arms gives controlled braking. Even with severe lock-up, control is much improved. An all too common error is twisting to the inside of the bike. He's trying to gain stability, but creates tension. Even if you don't hang off the bike, stabilising your body is still important. Gripping the tank with one or both of your knees as you go into and through the turn is simple and efficient. The more firmly you anchor yourself, the easier it is to relax your torso and arms. For mid-corner, suspension is set up for a given amount of weight fore and aft. The bike cannot compensate for you moving around on it. As we've covered already, get into your fore and aft position on the seat early and stay there.
Just to recap, your bike's suspension can be adjusted for a variety of road and track conditions, but you cannot adjust it for excess rider input. By being loose, the rider allows the bike's suspension to perform at its best.
The main points of rider input are: hanging off too late creates instability. Get over early. Hanging off too far creates instability as well. Being disconnected on the bike looks like this. Locked on is better. Twisted on the bike. Going with the bike. The seat provides stability, and so does the tank. Use your pegs. Riding stiff. Riding loose. Using the bars to hold on. Using the tank. Tight equals front end shake. Loose is stable. Crossing on the bike. Going with it. Tight, it slides. Loose, it recovers. Acceleration head shake. Acceleration stability. Braking instability. Locked on in the seat gives good braking stability.
Yep. All those things have happened to me.
Yeah, you should just let the bike do the work. I'm causing my own handling problems and making myself tired.
Stabilising the bike is the rider's goal in any corner. Throttle error or entering a corner too fast are two of our known enemies in getting that result. But perhaps the most important of all is your line through the turn. Having a poor line through any corner makes the rider's job of stabilising the bike with good throttle control all but impossible. We've already explored counter-steering and know it gives us effective and precise control of the bike's direction. But there are three underlying principles to steering that you must understand. There are three tools we use for executing our line. One, where you begin the turn. Two, how quickly you flick the bike over. Three, how far you lean it. Let's investigate the first one, where you start the turn, and see how it can affect your cornering.
Hey, you're doing good, huh?
That's getting better.
Looks like it.
I'm getting a feel for throttle control, but it's inconsistent. One lap I'm good, the next I'm stalled on the gas in the same turn.
I know what you mean. My line changes from lap to lap, so I don't always have the confidence to keep rolling it on. Gets to me.
Yeah, that happens to me too. It totally blows my confidence and I'm right back to rolling it off. I hate when that SR happens.
Yeah, well, it says here that there are 11 things that are influenced by where you turn into a corner. 11 things. Guess what? Both of our problems are on that list.
Really?
Yeah.
But what is the solution? What can you do to bypass these problems? The answer is too simple. Find and use a good turn-in point. Finding a turn-in marker and using it will give you consistency. It helps you avoid problems like inconsistent lines and throttle errors. How can you find a good line? Once you establish a reference point, the trial and error method will tell you what works and what doesn't. That tar snake on the pavement is a good reference point. He tries a later turn-in, but that chops up his brake release. A little earlier runs him too wide and the throttle goes off and on. Right after it, he carves a clean line and, most importantly, the throttle control is great.
Let's look at some cornering theory. What kind of line would allow you to get back on the gas most easily for good throttle control throughout the corner? One that starts here?
No.
Good. One that starts here?
No.
All right. How about this one? Starts here?
Yes.
Good. There are actually 11 ways your turn entry position or your turn-in point affects how you corner. First, let's look at your overall corner speed.
He's taking an early turn-in, resulting in an inside line. It's plenty fast coming in, but slower mid-turn and exit. Turning in later, trying to straighten out the turn, allowed him to get back on the gas earlier. Your entry point has a huge effect on overall corner speed. While the low inside entry had a high approach speed, it was slower mid-corner and exit. The higher outside turn entry allows him to point the bike more towards the exit. Even before mid-corner, he's back on the gas. Now let's look at how entry point affects braking. Your beginning and ending brake points are both modified by where you start your turn. On the low inside line, you're leaned over longer and brake pressure is critical because it's easy to lock up the front wheel. On the later turn entry, it's easier and safer because more braking is done with less lean angle, and it most often is completed earlier, allowing the rider to get back on the gas. This is a huge difference. If the pavement was slippery, which line would you choose? Finishing the braking earlier or later? Your turn-in point determines that. Let's follow him in on the high line. He ends his braking just as he's flicking it in, and he gets a better drive. By the way, even though it's usually a minor point, downshifting is another thing that is affected by where you turn in. Of the key tools of turning, one is how quickly you can get the bike over. It's easy to see how the early and later entries compare in this regard. The low entry requires lazy steering. You can't flick the bike onto its line. The later turn-in allows for a decisive steering commitment to the turn. Mid-corner and exit stability and speed start when the gas comes on. Watch both lines to see where the gas comes back on. Our later entry rider was able to get back on the gas 37 feet earlier. That's 5 bike lengths. Earlier on the gas means stability through more of the corner. Your turning position has an enormous effect on that. That's 6 points so far. A good drive off the turn is number 7. Low line entry checks your drive because number 8 on the list, lean angle, also comes into play. You were leaned over further and longer from a low line entry. Seeing a line that is taking you too wide does not inspire confidence. Seeing one that points you further up the road does. Number 10 is how much road you have at the widest point of your exit. On the street, the same principle applies. Staying in your lane through the middle and exit of the turn is all easier with a later entry point. This helps reduce panic and provides riders with a greater margin of error in regard to oncoming traffic. The 11th and final aspect that is affected by our turn point is mid-corner lean angle correction. While they may seem like a fact of life, they're a common rider error that results from this same tech point: early turn entry. Throttle control rule number 1. The clean, continuous roll-on is always easier once you have established a workable turn point. The single biggest cause of SR number 1, going off the gas when you should be rolling on, is a bad line. We now know all 11 aspects of your riding that are affected by your turning point. Let's quickly review them. 1. Where the brakes go on. 2. Where the brakes go off. 3. Where the throttle comes back on. 4. Where the bike is pointed once fully leaned over. 5. Where will you finish the turn? How wide will you run at the exit? 6. Where will you downshift? 7. How much lean angle will you use? 8. How many, if any, steering corrections will you make? 9. How quickly or slowly will you have to steer the bike? 10. How much speed you can approach the turn with? 11. How quickly or slowly the throttle may be applied. Good. Those are the 11 things affected by your turning point. Now,